When I was a kid, I used to think our house breathed in its sleep. It would groan a little after midnight, would shifting in the walls like old bones remembering how they used to stand tall. I thought maybe the house missed my grandfather, or maybe it was just cold and lonely like I was, especially after Mom started locking her door at night. Now, 15 years later, the house is still here. Same blue-gray siding curling up at the edges. Same rusted wind chimes swinging over the porch like it's trying to remember a melody. The only thing that's changed is me, and the fact that Mom isn't behind that door anymore. They buried her 3 days ago. Small service. Closed casket. Nobody brought flowers. Nobody really knew her anymore, not since she stopped leaving the house. Just me. And I hadn't seen her in 6 years. The rain hasn't stopped since I got off the bus that dropped me just outside of town. It's the kind of drizzle that soaks through your socks without you noticing, until your bones start to ache like they know something you don't. I stand on the porch, staring at the locked front door. My suitcase sags beside me. The doorknob is just like I remember, smooth and cold, with that faint smell of old metal. I know the key isn't in my bag. It isn't in my pocket. I check under the mat like a fool. Then I remember. She told me once, when I was 9, when I asked why we didn't have visitors like other houses, she said, "If you ever need to get in, and I'm not home, check under the left flower pot." The cracked one. I never touched it. Not once. Even as a kid, I didn't question her rules. She didn't have many, but the ones she had always came with weight. I kneeled down. The flower pot's still there. Ceramic, chipped at the rim, and dried despite the rain. I lift it, and there it is, a brass key, green at the edges like it's been waiting too long. The moment I slide the key into the lock, I feel it, like the house exhales. The door creaks open, slow and heavy, and the scent hits me all at once, dust, lemon cleaner, and something sharp underneath. Not rot. Not quite. But something that says this place hasn't been touched in weeks. I step inside, and it's like walking into a memory you didn't mean to keep. The hallway is still narrow, still lined with faded photographs, most of them turned slightly sideways in their frames, like they're tired of posing. There's me at 4, holding a plastic sword in front of the TV. There's Mom, younger, smiling like she didn't know how rare that would become. And then there's one photo at the very end, the one I don't recognize. A boy, maybe 17, leaning against a motorcycle. Tall. Eyes like mine. But the frame is turned around, face first against the wall, like someone didn't want it seen. The furnace kicks on with a low groan, and I jump a little. Still a coward in my mother's house. I drag my suitcase up the stairs. Every step creaks, not loud, but just enough to remind me this place isn't empty. It just feels that way. Her bedroom is exactly how I remember it. Bed made, corners tucked sharp. Curtains drawn. Her mirror is covered with an old sheet. On the nightstand, her lamp. A stack of unread books. And next to them, a single white envelope. My name, written in her handwriting. For when I'm gone. Pause, let the silence breathe. I sit on the edge of her bed and stare at it for a while. I half expect it to burn up in my hands or vanish the moment I touch it. But it doesn't. It's real. The envelope is thicker than a letter. There's paper, but something else too, something heavier. I slide my finger under the seal and pull it open. Inside. A birth certificate. My birth certificate. But something's different. Under father, unknown, there's a line scratched through, and in faded pen, a name. Nathaniel Ashe. There's also a small black and white photograph folded into the creases, grainy, worn at the edges. It's the same boy from the motorcycle picture. Younger maybe. Smiling. One arm draped around a girl with long hair blowing in the wind. My mother. They look happy. Reckless. Alive. Voice softer now, more haunted. I never asked about him. Not once. She never offered. And somehow, we built an entire life out of that silence. But now, I have his name. And the first time I say it out loud, it tastes like rust and rain. Nathaniel. Long pause, then whispered. That night, just before I fall asleep on the old couch in the living room, I hear footsteps upstairs. Soft. Measured. Like someone who knows the creaky spots and avoids them on purpose. But I'm the only one here. At least, I think I am. The town hasn't changed. Not really. The paint's chipped more, the sidewalks cracked deeper. The gas station where I bought candy with nickels is now a vape shop. But the bones are the same. And bones don't lie. Main Street still smells like coffee and motor oil. The old clock tower ticks too fast, like it's nervous. And the people, they still stare at you like they know what your mother did, and maybe what you will too. I walk through town holding a ghost's name in my pocket. Nathaniel Ashe? No middle name. No date of birth. Just that one line, inked like a confession across the birth certificate I found in the envelope. I try saying it again in the mirror before I leave the house. The name doesn't fit right in my mouth. Like a jacket that belonged to someone bigger. Someone dangerous. The library sits at the end of Cedar Street, quiet, hunched, and slightly water-damaged, like everything else around here. I haven't been here since I was 12. Back then, I used to hide in the mystery section and pretend I was a detective. I even had a notebook. Wrote down license plates of cars I didn't recognize. Imagined 100 fathers pulling into town and picking me up, like I was a package the post office forgot to deliver. Funny how that game doesn't feel like a game anymore. The librarian is still the same. Mrs. Radley. Hair pulled into the same tight bun. Reading glasses perched halfway down her nose. She looks up as I approach, and I see it, a flicker of recognition. Then something colder behind it. She doesn't ask my name. She doesn't have to. I need to look up a name. I say. It's old. Probably around the mid-80s. She hesitates. We don't have digital records before 97. You'll need to use the archive room. She slides me a key. Downstairs. Don't take anything out. The archive room smells like mildew and forgotten birthdays. Dust floats in the slanted light like ash from a slow fire. There are rows of filing cabinets, alphabetized, but not in any way that makes sense. It takes me over an hour to find anything. But when I do, I almost miss it. ASH Nathaniel. See Thatcher case /1985 Miller Lake. That name again. Thatcher. I follow the cross-reference and find it. Tucked in a manila folder between a water-stained bake sale flyer and a high school football schedule is a copy of a newspaper. Yellowed, brittle, ink almost gone. Tragedy at Miller Lake, teen disappearance shocks town. July 14, 1985. I read every word like it's been waiting for me. Local teen Caleb Thatcher, 17, was reported missing after failing to return from a camping trip near Miller Lake. His last known companion was 19-year-old Nathaniel Ashe, a local mechanic and recent graduate of Ashbrook High. Ashe was questioned by police but released due to lack of evidence. Sheriff Ryland stated the investigation is ongoing, but no signs of foul play have been confirmed. Witnesses say the boys were seen arguing at a gas station hours before the disappearance. Ashe refused to comment. Miller Lake is now closed to the public pending further investigation. There's a grainy photo beneath the article, 2 boys, half-turned from the camera. One of them is Nathaniel. Younger. Jaw set tight like he's chewing on secrets. The other is Caleb. He looks like someone who trusted too easily. And now he's gone. I close the folder and sit there in the dark for a long time. That's when I realize something. I've never once heard Mom say the word father. Not even in passing. She used to tell me fairy tales, wild, beautiful stories, but in none of them was there a prince who stayed. Or a king who was kind. Just brave boys with bad fathers and broken swords. Was this her story? A boy disappears. A man vanishes. A secret buried beneath a quiet house? I'm halfway up the library stairs when Mrs. Radley stops me. Her voice is low. Calculated. You looking into Nathaniel Ashe? I nod. She doesn't blink. You'd be better off letting that name stay dead. I step out into the street. The clouds hang low and heavy like they're listening. In my pocket is the photo of Nathaniel and my mother. On the back, in her handwriting, Miller Lake. Summer of us. I take the long way home. Past the shuttered diner. The church with the boarded-up bell tower. Past Mrs. Ellerby's house, where the porch swing still creaks even when there's no wind. When I get back, the rain has turned to mist. The house looks the same, except for one thing. That photograph in the hallway? The one of the boy with the motorcycle? It's no longer turned toward the wall. It's facing forward now. Watching me. And I swear to God, he looks a little older than he did yesterday. Miller Lake isn't on most maps. That's the first thing I notice when I try to find it online. No official trailhead. No visitor info. Not even a GPS pin. Just a vague outline where blue meets green on satellite view, like the land itself tried to cover it up. Locals still talk about it like a place you used to be able to go, before the incident. Before the Thatcher boy disappeared. Before the name Nathaniel Ashe was spoken in past tense. Back in the archive room, the microfilm said they drained the lake once, hoping to find a body. They didn't. It just filled back up, silent as ever, like it swallowed a secret and didn't feel like giving it back. The road to Miller Lake is more memory than asphalt. I take my mother's old car, the '92 Corolla that somehow still starts if you talk to it gently enough. The tires crunch through gravel and pine needles as I follow an unmarked trail that feels like it's pushing me back with every turn. By the time I reach the clearing, the sky has bruised into early evening. The lake is still. Unnaturally still. No ripples. No birds. Just a mirrored surface stretched so perfectly that for a moment I forget which way is up. There's a small duck rotting into the water, the boards sagging, the nails rusted. I stand there and let the silence settle on me like a second skin. Somewhere out there, Caleb Thatcher disappeared. Somewhere out there, my father was the last one to see him alive. I walk the shoreline, hoping for something, anything. A sign. A voice. A feeling. Instead, I find a tree. An old pine, warped with age, leaning out over the water like it's trying to whisper to it. And carved into the bark, just above eye level, are two letters. N+L. A heart around them, crude and deep, like it was carved fast, or angrily. Nathaniel. And my mother. I stare at it for a long time. Touch the carving. Run my fingers along the grooves he left there, like maybe I'll feel warmth, or electricity, or some part of him that didn't rot away with the years. But there's nothing. Just bark. Just wind. Then, a sound. Crunching. Behind me. Soft but steady. I spin around. Nothing. Not a bird. Not a squirrel. Just a shape in the fog, a figure maybe, standing far off down the trail. Still. Watching. But when I blink it's gone. Back at the dock, I sit with my feet just above the water. There's something about the lake that draws your gaze. Not like it wants to drown you, not quite, but like it wants you to understand something. Something wordless. I think about my mom. The way her eyes used to flick toward the window when it rained. The way she flinched when engines backfired. The way she used to sit on the porch swing in silence for hours. Now I know what she was looking for. Or maybe who. On the way back to the car, I noticed something half buried under a log. It's an old leather bracelet. Worn. Faded. I pick it up. There's something scratched on the underside. He knew. That night, back at the house, the wind starts early. Windows rattle. The hallway hums like it remembers voices. And in the living room, the photograph of Nathaniel on the wall, it's missing. I search the floor, the table, the back of the frame. Gone. But there's something new. Right where it used to be, tucked just behind the frame hook. A torn piece of paper. A page from a journal. My mother's handwriting. Caleb didn't just disappear. He was taken. And Nathaniel, he tried to stop it. But he saw too much. They told me if I talked, they'd come for him. And if they couldn't find him, they'd come for our son instead. They were watching me even before I was born. Every neighborhood has one. That one house where the curtains never move, but the lights always seem to know when you're watching. That one neighbor who sees everything, not because she's nosy, but because she's been there longer than God. For me, that house is directly across the street. White siding. Ivy strangling the porch columns. And a wooden swing that moves even when there's no wind. Mrs. Ellerby. She's been here since before Mom moved in. Since before Nathaniel. Since before most people started pretending none of this ever happened. And she's always been watching. When I was a kid, she used to leave little candies in a jar on her porch, the hard kind that tastes like cinnamon and metal. I never took one. Not because she scared me, but because I knew she was testing something. Now, 20 years later, I'm standing at the foot of her steps, and I see the same jar. Full. Dusty. Untouched. The swing creaks once. Then she speaks. You gonna keep loitering or come have a sit? Her voice is gravel wrapped in honey. Slow. Purposeful. Like every word is worth weighing twice before you spend it. I walk up the steps. She doesn't stand. Doesn't offer a handshake. Just nods at the empty half of the swing. There's a shotgun resting against her hip. No urgency in how she holds it. Just familiarity. Like it's an old friend who doesn't say much, but knows when to show up. I heard the car, she says. Didn't think you'd come back. Thought maybe you'd gone and buried your mother somewhere far from here. I don't correct her. Not worth it. She squints at me. You look like him. Who? I ask. She doesn't answer right away. Just tilts her head toward my house. Your mother was soft. But not stupid, she finally says. She had secrets. Most women do. But hers bled. I let the silence stretch. Then, do you remember Nathaniel Ashe? The swing stops moving. The air thickens. And for a moment, I think she's going to tell me to leave. But then she lets out a breath like she's been holding it for 40 years. Nathaniel was fire on a fuse. The kind of boy who felt too much, too fast. Worked down at Carmichael's garage, hands always black with grease. Thought he could outrun whatever was hunting him. She picks up a chipped mug from the side table. Sips something that smells like whiskey and old mint. You think your mama left because she was scared. She didn't. I blink. Then why? She stayed. That was the worst part. She stayed. After Caleb went missing, after the sheriff started sniffing around, after the whole damn town decided silence was safer than truth. Your mama should have run. But she loved Nathaniel too much to give him up. And you. She taps the edge of her cup against her knee. You were the only thing she loved more than him. I tried to keep my voice steady. Did Nathaniel kill Caleb? Mrs. Ellerby laughs. Dry. No joy. Boy, if Nathaniel had killed anyone, there wouldn't be a body. But no, he didn't. He was there, sure. And that was enough for the ones who needed a name to blame. But the truth? That got buried long before that boy's bones. She leans in slightly. Let me tell you something nobody else will. Her voice, low and warning, paces slowly. One night I saw him. Nathaniel. After the disappearance. Weeks later. Out front of your mama's house, middle of the night. He was shaking. Like he'd seen something that broke whatever part of him was still holding together. He kept saying the same thing. She looks me dead in the eye. It's not over. It's watching us. It's still here. I swallow hard. And then what? Then he vanished. Gone. Like the mist swallowed him. She pauses. But that wasn't the last time I saw him. That lands like a punch. I lean forward. What do you mean? She doesn't answer right away. Just gestures behind her, toward the side of the house. There's an old shed. Faded blue. Roof caved in at one corner. He came back once, she says. Didn't knock. Didn't speak. Just stood in my yard like he was waiting to be taken. When? 89. That was 4 years after the lake. 3 years after I was born. She finally turns to me, full on. Your mama never told you who your father was because she wanted to protect you. But protection has a shelf life. Eventually, the past comes back hungry. She finishes her drink. Sets it down with a sharp clink. Then she reaches into her cardigan and pulls out a folded piece of paper. Found this in my mailbox. No envelope. No name. Just this. She hands it to me. It's a note. Typed on a typewriter. Old ribbon. Faded. If you're reading this, it means I'm running out of time. Caleb didn't drown. He was taken. I saw who did it. And if they know I'm still alive, they'll come for him next. For my son. Tell her I'm sorry. I look up at her. My hands are shaking. She just stares out at the street, where my house waits like a wound that never quite healed. And then, as I stand to leave, she says one last thing. Almost too quiet to hear. Tell him to stop walking so loud upstairs. It's rude, especially at night. I stop on the step. My mouth dry. I live alone, I say. Mrs. Ellerby smiles without humor. No, son. You don't. The attic was always the quietest part of the house. Even as a boy, I never trusted it. The way it swallowed sound. The way the light bulb at the top of the stairs flickered even when it wasn't on. Like the wiring knew something you didn't. Like the house was trying to warn you in its own language. I waited until after midnight to go up there. The footsteps hadn't returned in 2 nights. Just silence, thick and expectant. It was the kind of silence that made you feel like something was holding its breath, waiting to see what you'd do next. The hatch opened with a groan that echoed like a cough in a church. Everything up there was exactly how it had always been. Boxes marked as Maz and Don't Touch. Yellowed newspapers. A crib I don't remember ever sleeping in. But near the far wall, beneath an old tarp and a stack of photo albums, was a box I'd never seen before. No markings. No dust. Inside, a projector. A spool of 8mm film. And a note in my mother's handwriting. Watch only once. I brought it downstairs. The film reel was labeled Summer 85, Nathan. I didn't hesitate. The projector clicked on with a mechanical whine that felt louder than it should have. The living room dimmed. The reel spun. The wall lit up. The footage was grainy, flickering. But I knew the place. A field near Miller Lake. Overgrown now, but back then it was gold with wild grass and sunlight. My mother is there. 17. Laughing barefoot, spinning in slow circles. Her dress catches the light. Her hair is longer than I've ever seen it. And then he appears. Nathaniel. He's not what I expected. He's smiling. Not the crooked, haunted smirk I'd imagined from old photos and town whispers. This smile is wide. Pure. The kind of smile you can't fake. He's chasing her. She's holding the camera, filming him now. They fall into each other. Kiss. She laughs into his mouth. It hurts to watch. Not because it's wrong, but because it's so obviously real. Then the frame shifts. The camera is on the ground. Still running. In the distance, a shape moves through the trees. A third figure. Hard to see. Dark clothes. Watching. Nathaniel turns toward it. His body stiffens. He starts shouting. The audio's lost, just static, but you can see it in his face. Fear. He runs toward the trees. The film jumps. A blur. Then darkness. When the image returns, it's nighttime. Nathaniel is alone. Blood on his shirt. Holding something. A necklace, maybe? He looks directly at the camera. His mouth moves. And then the film burns. The screen goes white. The reel sputters out. I sit in the dark for what feels like hours. Eventually, I rewind it. Try to play it again. But this time, it doesn't work. The film catches. Stutters. Burns again, quicker. Then nothing. The note was right. Watch only once. I pick up the reel, still warm, and notice something scratched on the inside rim. He wasn't supposed to be there. I don't sleep. I sit by the window until dawn, watching the porch across the street, where Mrs. Ellerby used to leave her lights on all night. But her house is dark now. The swing doesn't move. And sometime between 3 and 4 a.m., a shadow walks past my window. Tall. Familiar. And when I look again, it's gone. But on the floor, beneath the window frame, is a small square of torn film. Held up to the light, it shows my mother. But she's not 17 anymore. She's older. And behind her, in the distance, a shape I know by instinct. My father. Watching. Waiting. Still here. I returned to the lake before sunrise. The road was softer this time, the gravel giving way like it knew me now. The trees didn't whisper as much. The air hung heavier, but calmer, like whatever had been watching was waiting now, curious to see what I'd do. The dock was still there, more rot than wood. A bird circled overhead, quiet and distant, then disappeared behind the tree-ling. I stood at the edge, holding the reel of film like an artifact I didn't understand. I threw it into the lake. Not in anger. Not in fear. Just something that felt like instinct. The water didn't ripple. It took it without question. That's when I saw the corner of something pale just under the surface. Caught on a branch near the shore. I pulled it out carefully. A box. Small. Wooden. Lined with rusted nails and sealed with wax. Inside were letters. Dozens. All addressed to my mother. None of them opened. They were signed the same way every time. Nathaniel. Each letter dated between 1986 and 1989. He'd been writing her after the disappearance. After the town turned on him. After the sheriff decided his guilt by silence. He hadn't run. He'd been hiding. Trying to come back. The letters weren't love notes. They were confessions. Not about Caleb. About something older. Deeper. About the town. About what it was built on. There was one letter dated the day before I was born. If they ever find out about him, they'll take him. Just like Caleb. Just like the others before him. I'm trying to keep us out of it, but Ryland, he knows. He's covering for someone, maybe more than one. I don't trust anyone anymore, not even the ones who said they believed me. I hear them outside sometimes. At the tree. You know the one. They leave things. Pieces. Teeth. Hair. Offerings, maybe. I don't know. I just know I'm not crazy. If he ever asks who I was, tell him I tried. Tell him I was afraid, but I never stopped watching. I didn't know what to do with the box. So I brought it home. I spread the letters across the dining table, careful not to smudge the ink. My mother never told me he wrote. Not once. Either she never saw these, or she didn't want me to. There were fingerprints on the inside of the box. Small, like a child's. I didn't want to think about that. But I couldn't stop. I went into the basement. It used to be a laundry room. Now it was storage, water-stained walls, a cracked cement floor, the faint smell of rust and time. I started pulling apart the old shelving unit along the back wall. Behind it, beneath a loose panel, I found another box. This one older. Wrapped in plastic. Covered in dust. Inside were more letters. These weren't from Nathaniel. These were from Caleb. All addressed to someone named E.M. Each one angrier than the last. Accusations? Pleas. Warnings. He'd been trying to expose something. He mentioned the lake. The disappearances. Names I didn't recognize, teenagers from the 60s, the 70s. One letter mentioned the sheriff directly. Said he was part of it. Said it went back generations. Said Miller Lake was a place of exchange. I heard the footsteps again that night. Not above me. Below. In the basement. Not rushed. Not heavy. Just one, then another. I didn't move. I let them walk. And then I heard a voice. Not out loud. Inside. Soft. Familiar. A man's voice. You're close. Keep going. The next morning, the box from the lake was gone. The letters too. But on the table, a single item remained. A necklace. A small tooth hanging from a leather cord. And a note, freshly written. Don't trust the ones who smile too easily. Especially not the ones who never left. Sheriff Ryland still lived in the same house he always had. And it was time I paid him a visit. Sheriff Ryland lived at the end of Pine Ridge Lane, in a white ranch-style house with green shutters and a yard too clean for a man with dirty hands. The flag out front never touched the ground. The porch light flickered even in daylight. The whole place felt scrubbed down to hide something ugly underneath. I parked down the block. Walked the rest. The letters were gone. The necklace too. But I had one thing left, a name. A fact. Nathaniel Ashe didn't vanish. He was erased. And the man who'd held the match was still sitting in his leather chair, eating from the same cereal bowl like none of it ever happened. I didn't knock. I rang the bell and waited. He answered in uniform. Still wore the badge like it meant something. Can I help you? He asked. You knew my mother, I said. His eyes narrowed. Not with confusion. With recognition. He opened the door wider. Come in. The inside of the house was silent. No clock. No radio. No tick of a TV in the background. Just the hum of something unspoken. I'm sorry for your loss, he said. You didn't come to the funeral. He shrugged. Didn't think I'd be welcome. You investigated Caleb Thatcher. He sat down in his recliner. No offer of water. No small talk. Just settled into the seat like he'd been waiting for this day for years. I interviewed a lot of people. Nathaniel was one. You believed he did it. He didn't answer. I reached into my coat pocket. Pulled out the copy I'd made, one of Caleb's letters. I dropped it on the table. You knew Caleb was trying to blow the whistle on something. Ryland stared at the paper. He was a kid, he said. He didn't understand what he was stepping into. Neither did Nathaniel. Silence. Then, you look like him, you know. I didn't respond. He leaned forward. You want the truth? Your father ran. Not from guilt. From what would have happened if he stayed. He saw something out there that night. And he wasn't supposed to. I sat down across from him. He tried to protect Caleb. Ryland nodded. And when it didn't work, he disappeared. Convenient, isn't it? I said. Every loose end tied up. Every voice silenced. I didn't silence anyone. You let someone else do it. He stood up. Moved toward the window. You think this town survives on taxes and school plays? You think all this stayed quiet for 40 years because I told people to hush? No. This place has a rhythm. A deal. And once you know the rules, you don't break them. What kind of deal? He turned. His eyes were empty. One life every few years. Always a stranger. Always someone who won't be missed. It was supposed to be clean. Balanced. But Caleb found out. He wasn't supposed to. Nathaniel tried to stop it. That broke the cycle. You covered it up. I protected the town. You protected yourself? A long breath. Maybe. I stood. Where's my father? He didn't answer. I took a step forward. Where is he? Ryland reached into his desk drawer. I froze. But all he pulled out was a folder. Thin. Yellowed. He handed it to me. Inside was a single photo. Nathaniel. Older. Beard. Different haircut. Same eyes. Dated 1997. Location, Ashe and Sons Auto, Shiloh, Missouri. He left, Ryland said. Started over. New name. Knew everything. Never came back. Why? Because I told him if he did, you'd be next. I closed the folder. You don't get to threaten me. I'm not threatening, he said. I'm warning. You keep digging, and you'll find what he tried to bury. Not just the bodies. The reason for them. I walked to the door. You're going to burn for this. I already have, he said. I didn't turn around. When I got back to the car, there was a note tucked under the windshield. No envelope. Meet me at the garage. Midnight. Come alone. No name. But I knew who it was from. There was only one garage left in town. Ash Automotive. Closed since '99. But the door was unlocked when I got there. Inside, the smell of oil and time and something else. Something old and metallic and faintly sweet. A single light buzzed above the workbench. And on the counter, a cassette tape. Labeled in blue pen. For my son. I sat in the old garage for over an hour before I worked up the nerve to play the tape. The air was thick with motor oil and mildew. A half-covered Mustang rusted in the corner. Tools hung on pegboards like bones in a museum. Nothing had moved in years, but the place felt lived in, like someone had been here recently, cleaning up ghosts, leaving just enough behind to say, I was here. I mattered. I found the cassette player tucked under the bench, wrapped in a stained rag. The kind my mother used to use to wipe grease off Nathaniel's hands in the old photos. I slid the tape in, pressed play. Nothing at first. Then the soft click of a mic turning on. Static. Breathing. Then his voice. Low. Unsteady. Younger than I expected. If you're hearing this, then I'm dead. Or gone. Or maybe just too far away to be found. I don't know what your mother told you. Probably nothing. That was her way. She thought silence was safer. But you deserved more. The voice paused. Coughed. My name is Nathaniel Ashe. And I'm your father. Hearing it out loud didn't make it real. Not at first. It just cracked something open inside me I didn't know was still locked. I sat down hard on a stool, the weight of everything folding into my chest. I was 17 when I met her. Your mom. She was lightning. The kind of girl you only meet once. We weren't supposed to last. But then we did. And then you happened. The tape word. I wanted to stay. God, I wanted to stay. But then Caleb disappeared. I closed my eyes. He saw something. We both did. We were camping out at Miller Lake. Stupid teenagers, drinking, being loud. But late that night we saw lights. People in the trees. Hoods. A noise like chanting. And then a scream. It wasn't an accident. Caleb tried to run. I tried to stop them. I think they meant to take me too. But I got away. He didn't. I heard him shift on the tape. The scrape of a chair leg. A match being struck. The sheriff covered it up. Said there was no body, no evidence. But he knew. He was there. There were others too, men from town. Men with faces you'd recognize if you grew up here. They said if I talked, they'd come for you. Even if you weren't born yet. And I believed them. He exhaled slowly, smoke curling into memory. I left. Changed my name. Started over. But I watched. From far away. Letters. Photos. Friends who didn't know they were spying for me. I knew when you turned 5. When you won that art contest in 2nd grade. When you broke your arm falling off the roof. I swallowed hard. You were always brave. You got that from her. A long pause. I don't know if this town can ever be fixed. But it can be exposed. And you might be the only one who can do it. You're not bound by the fear the way I was. You don't owe them silence. The tape clicked softly again. There's a safe in the house. Behind the furnace. The combination is your birthday. What's inside, that's what Caleb died for. What they tried to keep buried. Get it out. Get it far from here. And if you ever meet them, the ones who still wear the masks, don't look them in the eyes. That's how they remember you. The last thing he said came almost as a whisper. I loved you, even when I was running. And I never stopped. Click. Silence. The tape ended. I didn't cry. I just sat there, fists clenched, the silence pressing against my ears like the garage itself was holding its breath. When I got home, I went straight to the basement. The furnace looked the same. Bent pipe. Burn marks on the wall behind it. I pulled it forward. My fingers were trembling, not from fear, but from the feeling that everything I knew was about to change. Behind the unit, a steel safe. Dusty, hidden, but intact. I entered my birth date. It clicked open. Inside, a stack of black and white photographs. A small journal bound in cracked leather. A flash drive in a sealed bag. And a map of the town. But the map wasn't right. It had markings. Symbols. Trees circled in red. Names scribbled in the margins. Caleb's name. My mother's. Mine. One word was written across the center of the map in bold, slanted ink. Offerings. That night I didn't sleep. I laid the photos out on the floor. They showed things I couldn't explain. Rituals. Hoods. Bones arranged in circles. Faces half covered by masks carved from animal skulls. They were recent. Dated within the last 5 years. One of them showed a figure tied to a tree near Miller Lake. In the background, the silhouette of someone I knew. Sheriff Ryland. Still alive. Still watching. Still part of it. And the next name circled in red? Mine. The next morning, I drove to the edge of town without knowing where I was going. I passed the diner with its blinds always half closed, the post office that never changed the flag out front, the church with the doors that hadn't opened since I was a child. Every building seemed to stare back at me. I thought about the map. About the word offerings scratched across my family name. About the photos. The tree. The masks. The flash drive. I hadn't touched it yet. I drove to a place with spotty signal, parked under a dead pine tree, and opened my laptop. There was only one file on the drive. A video. Timestamped 3 months ago. The footage was shaky. Night vision green. It showed the woods near Miller Lake. The camera moved slowly, as if the person holding it didn't want to be there. I could hear breathing, low, fast, afraid. Then figures. 5 of them, standing in a circle. Hoods over their heads. Hands clasped. They didn't speak. One of them stepped forward and raised something in their arms. A small box. It was set on the ground inside the circle. Then one of them turned. Just slightly. Enough for the light to catch the edge of their mask, white bone, sharp teeth carved into a smile. Another figure stepped forward, this one holding something wrapped in cloth. They unwrapped it. Placed it into the box. I couldn't see what it was. The camera zoomed in. Tried to get closer. And that's when one of the masked figures turned fully toward the camera. I froze. Even behind the hood, I recognized the walk. The shoulders. The height. Sheriff Ryland. The camera whipped to the side. The person holding it was running. Breathing harder. Branches snapped. Leaves rustled. And then the feed cut out. I stared at the blank screen for a long time. 3 months ago. That meant this wasn't over. It wasn't history. It was still happening. I needed answers. There was one place left to go. I drove to Ash Automotive, back to the garage where the tape had been left for me. But this time, I wasn't alone. There was a man waiting inside. Grease-stained jeans. Work boots. Face like mine if you aged it 10 years and hardened it around the edges. He didn't look surprised to see me. "You're him," he said. "Nathaniel's boy." "Who are you?" "I'm his brother. Thomas." He lit a cigarette with a shake in his hands. The kind that came from regret more than fear. "I was here the night he left. I'm the one who helped him disappear." "Why?" "Because he saved me. Twice. Once from drowning. Once from this town." He looked at the floor. "But saving me meant losing you. He wanted to come back. He almost did. Then your mom told him about the mark." What mark? Thomas nodded toward my arm. You ever wonder why your mother made you wear long sleeves all the time? I didn't answer. He stood, walked over, and grabbed a mirror off the counter. Handed it to me. Lift your sleeve. I did. It was faint. Near the shoulder. A small, almost invisible scar. Shaped like a keyhole. That's how they keep track, Thomas said. The ones chosen as offerings. Branded young. Before they know. Who? He leaned close. Everyone. He pointed at the map I'd found in the safe. The mayor. The sheriff. The pastor who left town in '91. They were all part of it. Some still are. Some died trying to get out. Your father was supposed to be one of them. But he refused. That's why they went after Caleb. That's why they buried everything. What's the point of it? He shook his head. Power. Control. Balance. I don't know. I just know they believe in it. And when people believe hard enough, truth stops mattering. I stepped back. So what now? He looked at me with eyes that had already said goodbye to this place. You burn it down. The house. The lake. The memory. You take everything they tried to hide and you drag it into the light. I don't even know where to start. Thomas handed me a slip of paper. Start here. An address. On the outskirts of town. A house with a cellar. I found the real tapes years ago. The ones that prove what they've done. I hid them there. Didn't trust myself not to destroy them. But if you're really Nathaniel's son, you'll know what to do. I took the paper. He put a hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry he wasn't there. But he never stopped being your father. Not for a second. I left without another word. As I drove toward the address, the sky started to break open above me. Thick clouds. Rolling thunder. Rain tapping like fingers on the windshield. I looked down at my arm. At the mark. It didn't burn. But it felt heavier now. Like it knew its time was running out. Ahead, the road narrowed. The trees pressed closer. And for the first time, I saw what my father must have seen all those years ago, not a town, but a cage. Built out of silence. Kept alive by the people too afraid to name what lived inside it. I was done being afraid. The road to the house was barely a road at all. Just a sliver of dirt and gravel winding through a grove of half-dead trees, branches bowing toward the car like they wanted to pull me in and keep me. The address Thomas gave me led to a house that didn't exist on any map, not Google, not the old paper ones my mother kept in the glove box. But it was there. White paint peeled back like skin. A sagging porch. Windows blacked out with thick cloth nailed into the frames. The kind of place you feel before you see. The key was under a loose stone by the front steps. Exactly where the note said it would be. Inside, the house was silent. Air stale. The smell of wet wood and something else, not rot, but memory. The cellar door was in the kitchen. Underneath a cracked linoleum rug. I pulled it open. Stairs led down into the dark. I used my phone for light. The basement was bigger than it should have been. Stone walls. A concrete floor slick with condensation. There were candles melted down to nothing on a makeshift altar. Old papers scattered across a table. Symbols carved into the stone in a language I couldn't read but felt in my teeth. And in the far corner, a trunk. I opened it. Inside were tapes. Dozens. Labeled by date and name. 1984. Caleb Thatcher. 1986. David Price. 1990. Lauren Ash. My mother. Some were audio. Some were video. All labeled in the same hand. I took as many as I could carry. I never looked back. By the time I got home, the storm had broken open above me. Thunder cracked the sky in half. Wind howled against the side of the house like it was trying to get in. I laid the tapes out on the living room floor. Started with one label. Lauren Ash, March 14, 1990. It was a tape recorder. I pressed play. My mother's voice. Barely audible. shaking. They told me if I spoke, he would die. If I left, he would be taken. If I named them, I would become one of them. I've seen what they do. I've watched them in the woods. The masks. The fire. The way they chant without blinking. I was pregnant when I saw the first ritual. I knew what they wanted. I knew what the mark meant. I marked him myself. I told them it was done. That he would belong to them. But I lied. He was never theirs. He was his father's. And Nathaniel never belonged to anyone. The tape ended. I sat in the silence. Rain hammering the windows. Wind clawing the shutters. Somewhere in the house, the floor creaked, slow, deliberate. One step at a time. I turned. Nothing. But the feeling stayed. Like someone was finally ready to come down the stairs. I stood, walked to the hallway, and looked up. The photograph of Nathaniel had returned to the wall. But something was different. He was older now. Eyes heavier. Beard longer. The photo had changed. No doubt. And beneath it, another envelope. No name. Just a drawing. A tree by a lake. I opened it. Inside, a note in my father's handwriting. It's over when you make it over. The tapes. The names. The map. It's all yours now. But the footsteps? Those never stop. Not really. You just learn to walk with them. I left the house that night. I took the tapes, the map, the letters, and the journal. Drove across state lines. Dropped them in the mailbox of every reporter I could find. The kind who don't scare easy. It didn't take long for the story to break. Secret society allegedly tied to decades of disappearances in Ashbrook, PA. The town tried to deny it. Tried to spin it. But too many names were real. Too many dates matched. Too many people came forward with memories they'd kept buried behind silence and shame. Sheriff Ryland disappeared before he could be questioned. Others resigned. Some fled. Some stayed, but never spoke again. The lake was drained. They didn't find Caleb. But they found others. Bones. Dozens of them. Most never identified. I never went back. The house sold to a young couple who didn't ask questions. I left it clean. Empty. Except for one thing. In the attic, I left the photograph. The one of my mother, laughing in the field. And next to it, a new photo. Me, standing at the edge of Miller Lake, looking out over the water. No smile. Just eyes open. Watching. Listening. Waiting. The footsteps still come sometimes. In dreams. In empty motel rooms. In moments of silence between breaths. But they don't scare me anymore. They're mine now. Just like the name I carry. Ash. Not a curse. Not a weight. A reminder. That silence only wins when you stop listening. And I never stopped. Not even once.